It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Friday, December 6th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Until the End with Daniel Baker, the Wednesday Message Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And yes, it is a wonderful and awesome Friday. Yes, the weekend is upon us, and I hope you guys are looking forward to a great weekend and another wonderful Sunday service. Don't forget, every Thursday is question and answer, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, leave a like and comment to build our community. So I am just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. So this week's Sunday message title is Be Born Again, Do Things in New Ways. Amen. And what a powerful and awesome message it was this week. And I hope you guys really enjoyed and gained a lot of grace and fire from it too. So it is Friday. For me, it hasn't been a long week. I think it's just been a long day for me, but it hasn't been a long week. So it's actually a really short week because I was in Jeju Island from like Monday evening all the way to Thursday morning. So like almost the entire week I was away, right, from the office. Well, still working, still doing the things I need to do, but just not at the office, which is, for me, it's kind of one of those nice getaways. Right now at the moment, there's not a lot of people that are coming into, visiting Korea from the Western countries. So it enables me to do this work from home for just a couple of days, get some fresh air. And especially in Jeju Island, one thing you guys need to know is it's like the most southern part of Korea, which means it's the closest to the equator. So when I was there, like in Wolmyeongdong area, it's anywhere from like 3-4 degrees to about 10 degrees. But when I was in Jeju Island, it was like 17 degrees. So it's way different. It's way different because it's a lot warmer over there. I don't know if there's actually snow. I know there's snow on certain parts of the mountains, some of the big mountains they have there. But it's not really, you're not going to get much snow over there. Right? Of course, here we just had snow last week all over Korea and such too. But yeah, that is something that I just really, really enjoyed my time. For those of you guys who don't know, like where I am recording this right now, I right after I got back from the airport from Jeju Island, I went straight to the office, had 3 meetings like online on Zoom. And then I came home, got some dinner, and now I am, where am I? I am at the laundromat. Yes, guys, I am at the laundromat. I just finished drying my clothes. And it's, after you have a nice trip, you do got to wash all the clothes that you use, and you need to get yourself back to like square one or back to normal again. So I have finished everything. And now I'm able to record here. And one of the things I like about recording in the laundromat is, number one, is there's no one here. Especially right now, it's like 8 p.m. along that 9 p.m. and there's no one here. It's really, really quiet. And another thing is, it's warm. There's a heater in here, and you just all you have to do is just press a button, and then the heater goes on for like 30 minutes. Like I just reset it for another 30 minutes, but it's nice and warm in here. So I'm very, very thankful that I can be here. And of course, it has internet, which I don't have at home at the moment. So that is something that is another huge benefit for me over here. All right. So a lot of different things that are out there, and there's a couple of comments that I saw, which were quite interesting one. And one of them was, this one was quite interesting for me because I think people have forgotten about 2023 already, I think. Because the question is, from the comments is, what would you say is the biggest thing from 2023 that Providence went through? And then it's like perhaps in the Western world, we only saw people leaving. Didn't Sunstein get put in prison at the end of 2022? And the answer is yes, but I'm going to just say that this is a good sign, I think. This is a really, really good sign that we are not remembering what happened in 2023. And I guess because there's recency bias, because all we know right now is what happened to Sunstein and him being in the place that he is right now. And that's the only thing that we keep hearing about is the trial. The trial's going on here, the trial's going on there. And I guess it could that recency bias kind of shows us like, oh, was this what was so bad in 2023? And I'm saying, guys, I think this is a good thing that we are forgetting the trauma and forgetting what was the worst thing possible, right? So remember, if you want to get an idea of what was the worst thing that happened, we can't look at it from the perspective of like a personal self. We have to look at it not from the perspective of providence. We have to look at it from the perspective of God. What is the worst thing that happened? What's the thing that hurt God the most in 2023? And, once we start thinking about hurt, and then we think about, I'll give you another hint, betrayal and wickedness that happened. Sunstein being in the place he is right now, it's just a result, but it's not like the main core reason, right? It's not the reason isn't him being there. There is a reason why he's in there right now, and that's going to be the thing that we really have to look at. And guys, if I know that, I'm saying, this is kind of quite shocking to me that people have forgotten, but I'm thinking it's a good thing too that we have forgotten this. But there is nothing more shocking last year than what happened on March 13th. It wasn't even Netflix. Netflix wasn't the bomb that dropped. It was March 13th when a certain person, went in front of the congregation and told them and said that Sunstein was guilty. Like that was the thing, the biggest bomb that dropped by far. There is nothing close to it that the person who was supposedly next, the next in number 2 and everything else was the one that dropped that bomb. And that's the thing that made tons of people falter. If there was, put it this way. We've been through something like this before where, 2008 and 2009, Sunstein was put into prison and, all these things happened. However, even this time right now, if that person did not betray and they stayed strong with Sunstein, I don't think that many people would have left. The reason why so many people left was because they were so attached to number 2. Right? And they held on to every single word that she said. And when she said that, everyone freaked out and they're like, oh my gosh, is there anyone who knows Sunstein better than her and this and that? And all these words came out. And what we need to realize is it's the betrayal. There's nothing worse than that. The worst thing you can do to someone is not hurt them, like not physically hurting them, because sometimes people physically hurt each other by mistake. You mistakenly sat on them and you broke their arm. You mistakenly did. If the hurt itself was the most important part, then it wouldn't matter if someone did it as a mistake or not, right? But there is one thing that hurts everyone, which is the person that you trusted, the person that was next to you side by side during, for so long, and they went through so many different experiences with you, the person that you have put your life on the line, like you would bet your life, no, this person's great and good. If that person betrays, that is, that's basically the stabbing in the back. That's like a husband or a wife cheating on you. That is the destruction of trust. And not only on top of that, I think the biggest thing, and if you look at even what Sunstein is talking about these days, the number one thing that matters to Sunstein is life. That's number one. It's all about life. Life is the most important thing to him, and he cares about the management of lives. He wants to make sure that no one leaves. And during 2023, how many people left? How many of these people that were supposedly so close to him or this or that, how many of them left? That was number one by far, so far ahead of everything else that Sunstein would gladly stay in prison for the rest of his life if not if he was given the option of, hey, you're going to be in prison for the rest of your life, but in exchange for that, none of the people from last year would leave, and they'd all still be in, don't you think Sunstein would take that? Everything that he does and all the things that he's doing right now is all for life. It's for salvation. That's number one. It is life itself. That's why you're going to look at the Ambition Masterpiece. You look in the very middle of it, right? It says, love life, right? You got to love lives. So, that's going to be the number one thing. And there is nothing that even comes close to that being the biggest thing that happened in 2023. Netflix isn't even close to it either, right? Nothing is close from it, close to it. Right? Even for, this whole thing, even 2,000 years ago at Jesus' time, there's nothing worse than his own disciple betraying him. There's nothing worse than that. That is the biggest thing, betrayal, right? And I think that's something that we do have to recognize also, right? So I think that's something that, sometimes we do need that reminder that it was that painful and it was that bad. We do need that reminder. We do, right? So I'm hoping that's something that you guys will really be able to understand well, and that you'll really have that mentality and the mindset that is a little bit, that we will refresh and remind ourselves that is, that's what happened and it's just a year ago, right? Well, now we would say it's like a year and a half ago, right? A little bit over a year and a half ago that actually thing happened. But us going through it, it was, it's probably been just about a year, and it's still fresh in our heart and stuff like that too. There's another question out there too, and the other comment was about, we have like purity education and stuff like that in Providence, and the question might be is, how do you tell people, that, or how do you live that lifestyle outside of Providence, right? And is it something that, how do you explain this to people outside too? Now, for me, I'm going to be truthfully honest with you. When whenever I go back to family functions, my cousins and my family and such, I hug all of them. My cousins, even my cousins' friends that come for Christmas dinner, I hug all of them. Why? Because it's kind of weird that I'll hug my family, but then they bring a friend and then I don't hug them. It's just kind of rude in that manner too. But I hug my family, even with my work. I don't really have that many worldly friends, but like most of the guys I meet, I'll give them a hug. Well, that's guys too, right? And girls, I've known them, I rarely meet them, but how I explain certain things, like there are certain things that are uber important to me that are like principled lines. And those are things obviously like committing the fall. Like I am very, very clear about this, and my friends know it too. And I just tell them, no, I just don't do it. I don't want to do it. And interestingly, I guess because I'm kind of at an age where these guys are just like, dude, you're powerful, you're strong. Oh, how do you do that? But it's kind of like, no, that's what I believe in, right? So it's like, yeah, it's just what I believe in. And one thing I do is I don't make it a big deal. I just don't. Yeah, I plan to save myself. And I'll tell, those are the big, hard lines that I draw. And when it comes to dating, people want to introduce me, I'm like, no, I'm fine. They're like, really? I'm like, yep, I'm fine. And they're like, you don't want a girlfriend? I'm like, no, I don't want a girlfriend. I'm okay right now too, right? And a lot of times, for me, I don't go on explaining too much. I find it unnecessary. And I won't even go that deeply into religious things. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to say it's against my religion. For me I just tell them it's my personal thing. It's yeah, no, I prefer to wait. Yeah, not interested. Yeah, I'm sorry. And when it comes and I think it's a little bit different where people do have to everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different. Everyone's situation is going to be something where it's going to be like, can I do this, but can I not do that? And that's something that people have to understand from their own situation, their circumstances too, and it's going to be different. I don't think it's going to be across the board, you can't do this and you can't do that. There are strong principles out there, right? Because if you become too strict with the rules, like way too strict, does that mean that when you go to a movie theater and a girl sits next to you, you're going to be like, I'm sorry, you can't sit there. Oh, I can't watch this movie anymore. There's a girl sitting next to me. I don't think that makes any sense, does it? That doesn't make any sense to me that if you go to a movie theater and you buy, like when you go to a movie theater, you buy a seat. And if some random girl sits next to you, you're going to be freaking out. And the answer is no way, right? That's not reasonable at all. So I would say that one thing that you should keep in mind is there's like the principled rules, right? What are the principled rules? Like, for instance, I am not, obviously there's the fall, obviously the dating, obviously this or that. And I'm pretty open with this and I'm pretty chill with it too. And people say, why not? And you just be like, yeah, just not feeling it. I don't want to do it kind of thing, right? And it really depends because I have some friends who are very, very Christian. And then I'll talk to them about religious stuff and I'll talk about how I want to give my life to God and they completely understand. But there's other people who don't believe in religious things and I don't need to tell them. They don't need to know all the details about it too. And that's why it's hard to give everyone like a cookie cutter thing. Like a cookie cutter, this is the way you should do it. This is exactly what you say. I would say you'd have to be wise and play it properly, right? Like for me, family and in the world, especially with my family and such, I hug all of them. And they're my family. I'll kiss them on the cheek, right? With the little, and like my little nieces and nephews, I'll play with them and I'll hug the girls and everything else. Why? Because it's my family kind of thing, right? So there's one thing that I would look at and say, yeah, that's I don't go across the board and I'm not so like strict with those certain parts of it because it's different depending on the relationship that I have. Even my friends from the world, when they're all married, they all have kids. And for me, yeah, I'll give them a very, very light hug. And I've just known them all my life. They're already married. They have kids and everything else. And that's just what I do because that's, it's different from situation to situation, and how you explain it's going to be different depending on what is their background too. Like I said, I don't really go so religiously into it because some people are not religious and some people actually don't care that much. And when someone is super religious, I will talk about it and then they will understand it a lot more. But I'm not gonna talk about like living my life for God and this, and that's why I'm not doing this to every single person. It's very, very different situation and circumstance, and we have to recognize and realize that this requires wisdom. It just does. It requires wisdom that you look at your situation, right? Your circumstance, understand what is actually happening, what's happening there, and treat it. Don't be, of course, unless it's like a core key thing that obviously we cannot cross, like I said, we're not going to start, going out and dating and start doing this and that. But there are certain things where, yeah, we will recognize that there is a different culture, a different situation or circumstance that it only applies to a very, very few, very few people. It's just like that. So I would say that it's not, there's no full thing to explain, but I would not explain it to every single person in a religious way. I just wouldn't, right? And those that are religious, I would open up a little bit more about it, but it's not really necessary that every single person knows every single thing, right? So that would be my advice on this. And I think it's something that Of course, we have to be very vigilant, but very careful, but also wise in each of these situations too. So that's what I would say for that comment also. Okay. Lately, Sunseam, there's two things on Sunseam's mind when you start listening to the messages over the last 2 months. Number one is it's about management, like just taking care of each other. And I really, really hope if we're very self-aware and understand our own situation, we need to be self-aware so that we can see what type of help we need. Like I am someone who believes that most people, not all, but most people recognize when they're not doing well, and most people should have have that self-awareness and that understanding that they need to ask for help, and people are not going to read their minds. Like that's one thing Sunseam said in the past too is no one knows that you're hurting unless you tell them. Right? So how do you, remember what Sunseam said when he was fasting for 70 days and then he comes back down the mountain, he's at his brother's house and he's so hungry, and basically he was so angry at his brother because his brother wouldn't give him any food when he just finished 70 days of fasting, and the brother's like, I didn't know. And basically what Sunseam realized is people can't read your mind. They can't read your heart. You got to say something about it. Right? And when you say something about it, this is when people, this is when they'll know. Right? You can't really blame people for not, hey, how come people aren't taking care of me? Unless you go out and you start telling people, you kind of tell the right people, right? And it's something that I do think that the vast majority of the management and the taking care of each other, that's just supposed to happen regularly in your departments, with your friends, with the group of people that you hang out with. That's kind of like a normal thing. I'm not sure about girls because I don't hang out with I don't know what girls do when they hang out with each other. But guys, we're in self-sustaining management where we're constantly making fun of each other, playing sports, eating, hanging out, playing card games, and then making more fun of each other and stuff like that too. That's something that I look at and say, yeah, that's just kind of just the way it is, right? And I think we need to recognize that, yeah, a lot of that, a lot of the management that we actually need, the bulk of it is going to be done with your group of friends and the people that you meet and respect and the ones that you love. That's where it's going to happen, right? We can't expect that your head leaders is going to do all your management. That is an unfair expectation to your head leaders. Very, very unfair. It's really to think that the bulk of your management is going to be done by your head leader. That is very unfair, very, right? So that's something that we have to recognize and realize too, and that's something that we have to really get our hearts and minds to think about. We have to be those that go out and reach out to those that can help us also. Don't just reach out to anyone, right? Reach out to those that can actually help us out. And Sunseam, that's what Sunseam really wants. There's going to be people who are already self-sustaining. They're doing well. They're doing good in all these, in that type of setting, right? And what shouldn't happen, and I think this is something that we have to be more aware of when it comes to taking care of each other, we shouldn't get into a position where if we disagree with something or if we may not get along with a certain person, that we kind of unconsciously, because we're negative towards a certain person, that we kind of go against their plans or go against what they're doing. Because it's kind of what Jesus said too. He's like, I'm taking it to an extreme, but Jesus says, love your enemies. And one of the things that Sunseam said was the reason why Jesus was telling people to love their enemies because he was their enemy. And salvation was coming through the person whom they thought was the enemy. So if we realize and think about it that way, it means what? It means that, okay, so these people are waiting for the Messiah, the person to come to give them salvation, and they look at Jesus as the enemy. But Jesus is like, hey, you have no idea where God's help is coming from, right? And that's why a lot of times, this is something that even for me is, sometimes I hear something that comes from a certain person that I may not agree with, I may not agree with them. I may not like them, whatever it is. But just because of that doesn't mean that what they say or what they're trying to do is wrong. You know? Because imagine it was someone you liked and they told you the exact same thing. Wouldn't you wouldn't you be more inclined to receive it then if that same message came from someone you liked? Which means that it's no longer about the message. You only care about where the message came from, which would put us into the same position as the Jews, that it was the words of God, the message that they wanted to hear, but they wanted it from the messenger they wanted it from, not from whom God wanted. And I think that's something that we have to think about when it comes to our life too, is are we trying to make our own messenger? Are we the ones trying to make God do it according to the way that we want? Or should we be the ones that are following and trying to do it according to what God wants, right? And of course, that is the most important thing. Don't kill the messenger, right? The messenger just comes to give the message, and that is the most important part. But sometimes through those that we may not understand, misunderstand, or not really like, if the message of God comes through them, are you going to not listen to it? Really? Where's the message? Should you be looking more at, oh, this is the words of God? Or, hey, who said it? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's something that we do have to really think about when it comes to our everyday life of faith and how we should be thinking about also. So yeah, that is something that that's one of the things is taking care of each other and management, getting along with people. You know, here's one thing that I was thinking about. Isn't it so odd? Because, we talk about instant, delayed gratification, like understanding that you can get something bigger in the future instead of something that's something that you're going to gain something just a little bit right now. And we understand this point, right? But here's something that's really, really interesting to me is, when I look at how when people in the world go to their jobs and they're going to work with people they don't like, but they'll still go and they'll work there for years with the person they don't like. And I thought to myself, why would they do that? And the answer is because they get something from it, right? They get something every 2 weeks. It's a paycheck. And that paycheck is somewhat meaningful to them because, number one, it either supports their lifestyle, or number two, it has a much deeper meaning where they're able to support their families with that paycheck. And that's why it's okay and it's worth it to them. It's worth it for them to receive, it's worth it for them to, go to work with someone that they don't like, right? So they have something they get every 2 weeks. And they're able to use that right away. So the delayed gratification for a paycheck, even though you work with someone you don't like, is 2 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks. Some people get paid monthly, right? Now, here's the interesting part when it comes to us running in Providence. And it almost feels like we have a lower tolerance rate in Providence, right? To work with someone that we may not agree with or we may not like that much. And I thought to myself why do we have a lower tolerance rate? You know what I mean? Where it's I can't stand it. Oh, God, I don't want to do this. I'm going to try something else or whatever it is, right? And of course, I thought to myself because number one is we don't get paid every 2 weeks or every month or whatever it is. Some do if they're working full time, but even then you're not getting a whole lot of money, right? So there's one thing that we look at. But the second thing I thought to myself is, the greatest thing that we receive, what is the greatest thing we receive from holding on and taking care of each other, and even though we may not get along with someone, but to hold on and just to bear with them and stuff like that too. Why? One of the things is consider righteousness also, to be able to work together even if you may not agree or like each other. But then the prize is interesting because it's as Jesus said, you will receive your reward in heaven. And I think one of the hardest parts about that is that, number one, heaven is so far away. Well, it's a lot closer for me than most of you guys listening, but still, it's further away. Even for me, I've lived about half my life. Right? I've lived about, maybe more than half my life, because if it's half, then I'll live to 92. But either way, right? So I've lived I've lived more than half my life. I'm way past the average, right? So it's still like another 40-something years away, right? So there's like me going to heaven is 40 plus years away, okay? So there's one part is it's really far away. And the second thing that makes it really hard for us to understand or to have that motivation by the prize is the prize itself is conceptual. There's nothing we can take from it. It's just like, oh, the righteousness and the merit you get and the higher, you can't imagine the prize you get in heaven. And the answer is true. We actually can't imagine. We can't imagine what prize we're going to get in heaven. That's truth. So here we are we're not understanding the prize we get in heaven. That's how big it is. So now we're kind of going, whoa, that's kind of crazy, right? So the prize is too big and it's too far away. Because when the prize is too big, or it's not something that you can grasp or really understand, it's something where it's hard for you to look forward to it. It just is. It's so hard for us to look forward to having that prize when it's so far away and it's just way too big or too conceptual for us to really understand. And it actually becomes something it's not a motivator, right? It's not something where we're so motivated by. And I think this is kind of one of the things that Sunseam teaches us the best is the mentality is not something you wait for at the end. The mentality we have is the daily life that we live right now. That is the most important part. It's the daily life, the small things we need to do each and every day that make up each and every day to get us to the end, right? It's not like we're just going to do this one thing at the end of our life and then like Jesus did, he died on the cross and boom, everything is done. It wasn't just one moment of greatness and it was over. But if you look at Jesus' life, it was every day he was doing these little miracles. Every day he was preaching the word. Every day he's doing these things, right? And I think that's one of the things that we kind of have to turn our attention to is the things that we do in our daily life more than what's going to happen at the end. Because that's so hard for us to comprehend. Right? So yeah, that's just a couple things that I was thinking about and trying to figure out to myself how we can do better in this history. Yes, we're not going to agree with everything that happens. We're just not. And we're not going to, it's not going to be the easiest thing. One thing that I'm experiencing, I think I had this conversation with a couple of other leaders too. And man, this one thing that I'm starting to relearn again, and it reminds me of when I was head leading also. And it's something I think that we have to understand as leaders or looking at our leaders. The leaders are in such a position where they're responsible for whatever that happens to the church and each of its members. And even when a member or someone lies or embellishes or says something that's not true, because you're the leader, you're still held accountable to it. You're going to be held accountable. Hey, is this true? Why do and you're the one that has to take care of this person, because the number one thing is not so much about is what this person's saying true, but it's more about this person's really hurting. This person's really going through something. Let's go check this. Let's go help this person out, right? And as a leader, we're held accountable to it, no matter what they say. And which means sometimes people just need help, right? They're crying out for help, so they lie or they embellish or they'll say things in a certain way so that you'll get helped. It's not any different than when you look at kids in high school when they're not loved enough, right? One of the reasons they say that children smoke, drink, or get into drugs and all these vices is because they don't feel like they're loved by their parents. So when they act out, what happens is their parents come rushing to the school, and it's the only time that their parents show that they really care for them. You know what I mean? So sometimes people are acting out because they really, really need help. They just do. And because they need that help, the leader has to be the one that goes out and helps them, which means it's beyond the words that are being said. And I'm going to be honest, it does seem unfair at times. It doesn't feel like it feels so like unjust. It's not right. But I think that's one of the reasons, that's one of the roles of the leader. It's the responsibility that we bear. We got to deal with it. We have to be the ones that sacrifice. And it's not going to be easy. Like, think about it. If it was really easy to be a leader, then we would have way more leaders, right? If it was really that easy to be a leader, then every leader would be doing a great job, right? If it was that easy, then I would say if it's that easy, then leadership wouldn't be leadership. Leaders are super hard to come by. They really are. They're really hard to raise and train. And, look at all of Providence. So many people in Providence, but very few become leaders. And I think this is why leaders are so valuable. And it starts with the willing heart. Now, I know that not all leaders are so awesome and great. And, I'll put myself, and I understand, I'm self-aware enough for myself, and I can see my lacking. I see my lackings. I do. I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not good at, right? And I would say that, but leaders in this stage of Providence, now I'm saying in this stage, I would say that it's even more commendable in this stage, because this is where Providence is still young and growing. It's not ideal. We're not in the best situation. But these people still volunteer themselves as leaders to go out there and push through this history. And I can tell you pretty much 100%, none of these leaders are doing it for money. I'm dead serious. Like, even for me right now, being IMD director, if I was doing this for money, I think that most people would be saying that, yeah. They'd be like, they'll look at it and they'll say, no, this person's definitely not doing it for money, right? That's just the reality of it. But it's through these leaders that, despite the situation, circumstance, not knowing fully what we're supposed to be doing and just learning as we go, just to go out there and push through this history, right? And I think this is why one of the things I really, really believe, where the Sunday message came out and said, hey, who are the ones that are remembered or talked about in the Bible the most? These are the people that went to the extremes, right? And they really pushed through extremely. And these are the ones that are remembered. And these are the ones that are wrote about in the Bible. And I do consider it a lot of the head leaders. The big leaders are the ones doing it, because it's so unideal. It's not easy. And, we don't have this seminary school, like a real seminary school. We don't have this training center for pastors and leaders and stuff like that too. And we're still in that baby stage. Right, not baby stage, but we're still in the growing stage, and it's not easy. But I put out my I commend all leaders out there at every level, for whether it's like a department leader, assistant leader, headquarters, like kudos to you guys. A lot of kudos to you guys, and just the fact that you're still doing it is something that I really feel that God is very, very thankful and proud of everyone, all the leaders out there that are doing that too. All right? Either way. So that's kind of one of the things I did want to talk about. I hope it's something that opens your heart and your mind too, to, we're not all perfect. Definitely not. It doesn't mean that that's not an excuse for the mistakes we make. But no matter what, I would say I still commend all of them. And I hope that we can really, really do better each and every day, and make ourselves and train ourselves even more. And guys, make sure you go out there and make sure you encourage your leaders, pray for them, so that they can do better and better, and help them whenever they can, and be like a good member that is always giving feedback and helping them out in those difficult times. Okay. So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's first segment. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll move into the Wednesday Message Word Study right after the first music break of the day.
Y'all ready for this?
All right, so let's get into today's Wednesday message word study, and what a message it was. Do not forget the grace of the past days. And very, very interesting scripture that was used. Luke 17 talking about the 10 lepers who were healed and only one came back and gave glory, which basically God is telling us that, hey, look, all 10 of them got blessed, but only one of them gave thanks. Only one of them remembered the grace they received, right? So I hope that you guys really, really enjoyed that message, but let's get into it right now. So one of the first parts that I liked from the message was a young person can't be used even if they have no problems because they're too young. And an adult is easy to use, but has that many problems. It's like, man, you can't win. Whether they're young or whether they're old, you can't win. And I thought that was quite interesting because it's like, yeah, young person, they're just too young, right? So they can't be used. But the old person is not old, but they're good. The only issue is the adults are the ones with the problems. And I looked at that, I was like going, oh, that's so interesting. I really thought that was interesting. An adult is easy to use, but has that many problems. And when I look at my life, the younger I was, I was more carefree. I didn't think about the issues that I think about right now, and it's so true. The older you get, the more problems that you kind of have, right? So what's the solution? Well, the solution is for us, we have to make ourselves, right? And this one of the first key points that came from the Wednesday message was about being born with certain, like you're born with certain things from the beginning, right? So there are certain things that we're born with and other people aren't born with. And God, God is making certain things from the start at the time he is creating. So it's something when we look at is like, yeah, it's so true. When you look at each and every one of us and you look at our traits and our characteristics, like I look at myself, I'm just like, ooh, God kind of made me with this basic part that's different than other people. Like number one is I like to meet people. I like talking to people. I am very, very extroverted. And then I meet someone else, they'd rather be alone. They'd rather just, talk to someone else. They don't want to be around other people, and they just want to be on their own. And they're happier when they're on their own, and I can't understand it. And that's kind of how God is created with that basic part from the beginning, right? And the way Sunsi put it was great. Is like, hey, look at mountains. Mountains mountains don't grow. Mountains are either big or small from the start when they're created, right? So a mountain that is made, like born low, cannot be made tall. And then one that's big can't be made small. And this is the same for all of us too. We are born with certain traits and then we develop those traits. And I think that's awesome because it means that each person will be able to do a different thing. We're not all doing the same things. We're not all born, not going to say equally, but all born with the same traits, which means we're all born with different traits. And then on top of that, then the next thing is how much did we develop those traits that become something really big for us, right? Right? It's not just people. Anything created by God are made for their specific purpose from the start. They're born that way, right? They're made to be born with their shape and form. And I think that's a thing that I think that's an awesome thing, as in, what to me that means is that we were born with purpose. There is something that we can do. There's something that God has in mind, and we're all different with different shapes and forms. And, it's kind of like the same thing as when I see, those video games when you're making your characters. Before in the past, they're like Dungeons and Dragons was this big thing in the past. I've never played it myself, but there were the video games that came out, and when you start your character, you get to choose like one of three characters. It's a paladin, it's an archer, it's an axe person, or what do you call it? Some warrior, and then you have like these skill points, like 10 skill points, and you get to put them in 3 different areas. One is dexterity, one is skill, and one is strength. And you can either balance it like a 3-3-4, or you can be more strength but less dexterity. Like there's a lot of different things that you can do. And I thought it was quite interesting. Like this is how God created each and every one of us. And I think the best example, and I think this is an example that we hear all the time, is just take a look at Wilmington, right? It is equipped appropriately for fulfilling God's 1,000-year purpose of creation. The terrain, right? The mountains surrounding the valleys, being equipped with rare rocks or trees, and the terrain and the rocks and trees and the valleys all around, that was made from creation. And then the second creation is when what we did with it is how much we developed it, right? And we have to understand what God is telling us is we were made for something. If we leave it up to ourselves, I think one of the hardest parts is that we really don't know what we should do. But we were made with purpose. And once you grow with your skills, you're going to see certain skills that you have, and you need to develop them. Right? You need to develop them. And this one thing that it said, when Sasi was talking about Wolmindong, he said, in life, it's also hard to find one person pleasing to your heart for a lifetime. Look around and see if you can find another terrain like Wolmindong. It's a place that cannot exist anywhere else in the entire world, right? It's hard to find one person pleasing to your heart for a lifetime. That's how hard it is. And he says, just as that is hard, can you find any terrain, any place that is equipped like Woimyeongdong? You can't find anywhere else. And he says, that's just as hard as it is for a human being to find someone who will be pleasing to your heart for an entire lifetime. And I think that's something that we can look at and say, wow, that's such a profound statement when you think about that. There's one part here, the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I know where all these places are. When it says, Woimyeongdong is equipped with everything from Mount Inde, where the sun rises, to Mount Taedong, where the sun sets. For Mount Inde, there's a legend that the key figure of history will be born at the foot of that mountain. And for me, I'm just like, whenever I do a tour in Woimyeongdong, I always show people that mountain. Like, that's something that I always show them, kind of thing, right? So that was something I looked at. I was like, yeah. That's why I'm telling you guys, it's so awesome to be able to know Woimyeongdong well. And when you know it well, this is when you'll be able to, listen to the message and be like, oh, I know that place. Oh, I know that place there too, right? So let's go back to the message. It says, you must clearly realize what God, the Holy Spirit, and the Lord have done for you and have it impressed firmly in your brain. So we get to the key point of the message. What has the Holy Trinity done for you? And impress it firmly into your brain. And this is when your faith is not going to waver. This is when you don't shake. As long as you don't impress all the things, if you don't clearly realize what the Holy Trinity has done for you, this is when our faith wavers. And this is one of the things that we have to look at and say, hey guys, yes, think about last year. All those crazy things were happening. We're distracted by this and that, people saying this and that. But in the end, if you clearly realized this is what the Holy Trinity did for me, you can't waver. Because you know, hey, you guys can say whatever you want, but I know what the Holy Trinity has done for me, right? And here's some of the things, like it gave some of the examples of things you have to clearly know. Number one is, know that you've been saved. If you impress, like knowing what the Holy Trinity, they have literally saved you from condemnation, from hell, you're not going to waver. On the same line, if you clearly realize that you were supposed to die, but you were saved, how could you not believe in the Holy Trinity? If we take action knowing something clearly, then even if a typhoon blows, your faith will become even stronger. Remember, it's not just taking action, because we've seen in the past many people take lots of actions. It's taking action knowing who Sunseng is. That's when our faith becomes stronger. Right? Know all the times, not just what they've done for you, all the times they've just even helped you. And when you realize clearly about this, you're going to be even more happier. Oh my gosh, God help. Like for me, I was really happy when I realized, oh my gosh, God kept me away from Korea so I wouldn't be affected by KJS and all the people that I would be living with over there. I wouldn't waver. So there's a lot of these things we have to think about is how come we're not wavering? It's we've forgotten the grace of the past. The grace of the Trinity helping us, the grace of the Trinity saving us from death, the grace of the Trinity saving our spirits forever, the grace of the Trinity of them helping us in our daily lives, taking action, knowing who the man of mission is. And Sunsi said it so clearly. People who wavered and left are those who did what? They forgot the grace of the past. They forgot when they were saved from death. They forgot when they were healed. They forgot when they almost died. There is so much grace we've received. If they remember that, they would not have left. And I think it's something that we have to fully recognize also. And, I think one of the best friends and biggest enemies we have is time. And one thing about time is when time passes, we forget, which is great because we don't want to remember all the bad things. However, It's also bad because we forget the good things. After a long time, we just kind of forget what God has done, right? We forget what God has done, or like there's one reason. Time passes, and because we don't talk about it, we don't do, after long, we just forget. Another reason why we forget is because we don't value what we received. And I think this is one of the funniest, not funniest, it's funny and sad at the same time, is there's so many times when we've been saved or we ask God to help us out here, and then we give all these promises, and right after it's done, we don't do them. And I think one of the biggest problems that we do face as human beings is we're so stuck on the suffering and problems we face just in the present. And because we only look at, oh my gosh, why is my life like this? Then we turn away from God. We think God doesn't help us. Then people leave providence. Or they feel unloved, left out. It's because we're so focused only on the present where we forget the past of how much God has done for us. God has done for us today. Right? Man, it's so sad because I look at myself too and I was like, man, how many times did I say that to God? Like, oh God, please help me here, and then I'll do this. But then I don't do it. It's like, it's so sad. This is how we work. We've forgotten what God has done. And even, after God saves us, after God helps us with our test, after God does this and that, we just kind of turn our backs. So, I hope that's, yeah. I just hope that's something that people remember. Like, absolutely. Like, we need to remember it. It's not an easy thing for us to do. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that I think we have to kind of push ourselves towards and realize. There's something else that I thought was quite interesting too. Have you guys thought about one part of the message says a person saves with the strength that comes from hope. That's interesting. And I think it's interesting because the example they gave is a hope of the person being, the hope of the person changing. And what does that mean? It means that, imagine you save someone and then you realized that they just went back to do the exact same thing. And when that person went out to save that drowning woman, they're kind of like, what? It's you again? Then it drains your strength. There's no hope that you're going to save them. They're going to do the exact same thing again, right? So we have to live according to that grace, right? Even when we face hardships, God is going to help us and he's going to save us, right? But can you imagine God losing hope? Just as we lose hope, we're going to lose hope when we're saving someone, but they just don't change. We're going to lose. We don't want to do it anymore, right? And man, it's a tough thing because how much God wants to save these people. Imagine it gets to a point you have no hope in them. So, yeah. It was just really sad to hear that is you have no strength comes from hope, but imagine if that person doesn't give you hope anymore, right? So I looked at that and I was like, man, that sucks. Like if you reach the point where you have zero hope in that person and you just have no strength to save them. What about that part that says the price for grace? It's like, you can't steal something. You have to pay for something that you take, right? You got to pay the price for it. And what Sanseem said was, you've come from death to life. So you must also evangelize someone who is in death and let their bodies and spirits return to God. That is the way to repay for God's grace and receive blessings. That's the way. That's the way. There is a price for grace. The price isn't money. The price isn't giving God something. It is saving life. And that's the price we need to pay for God's grace and receiving blessings. So, when anyone disbelieves, they go back and accuse, and then they go and accuse the one that saved them, right? You can tell where Sunseem's going with this, right? So he says, when anyone disbelieves, goes back and accuses the one who saved them with various lies, even though they were brought out from death to life, God will speak justly and take action justly. Once God takes action, he takes action justly, exactly as he said. Right? We have to live the life always remembering the grace. The life of loving God, loving our brothers with all our heart, will, and life. And we got to keep our hearts from wavering by always working hard to pray. Right? Great message, guys. And I hope you guys really, really enjoyed it. It gives you a refresher of the Wednesday message. Yeah. If you have any things you want to add, go ahead and put it in the comments below. We'd love to hear from that too. And before we get into Until the End with Daniel Baker, let's move into the final music break of the day.
I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. We stay looking for someone to hold when the right one's standing at your door. Open up your heart and say, I believe in what you say, and I promise you will gain much more. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. 10 years of struggle, 10 years of pain, but I'll finally get to see you no more. Just calling your name, and the ones who wonder who, just open up your eyes. He's waiting for you too. He's not a man in disguise. And the hardest cross to bear, but your heart's not what I wear. To think this effort and this love could overcome the dirty stairs. And it's all because of you. Yeah, it's all because of you. Said it's all because of you. Yeah, I need you. Looking for someone to hold when the right one's standing at your door. Open up your heart and say, I believe in what you say, and I promise you will gain much more. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one. Yeah, we're looking for the lost ones. I was a lost one. I found the right one. I found the right one.
Okay, so let's get into the final segment of today and for the entire week. And yes, we've missed him. This is Daniel Baker all the way here in South Korea with Until the End.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Do It Until the End podcast, the podcast segment that helps you go until the end. I'm your host, Daniel Shinsung Baker. Let's have an amazing podcast segment today. Now, today we're going to talk about a new focus and a healthy addiction that I'm going through. But first, 2 weeks ago, Saturday, was the Korean volleyball tournament that I had the amazing opportunity to participate in. And our team had an amazing time because we got first place within our league. Now, I would have to say we had the best time because our main focus was giving glory to the Trinity. Now, we weren't the most talented team within our group, but I truly believe we had the best heart. You know, the most interesting thing about our team was beside our coach, we were all second generation. So we were like relatively young, but we had good roots within Providence. So we were relatively young, and our greatest strength as a team was we had great defense. And because we had this fiery heart and we had this good defense, you know, our best quality as a team was covering for each other, you know, off the block and really scrambling to create those rallies that ultimately, you know, won us a lot of points. And it might sound cheesy, but our ability to focus on the present and to focus on those 1 points and, you know, focus and go until the end really helped us win the tournament. And, you know, I was able to get the Spiker of the Tournament award. And I would say that I wouldn't be able to do this alone. And there were clearly a lot of God's help. But I feel like I was able to become the leader and become the captain for my team when it really mattered the most. Our last game, which was the finals, the most important game of the tournament, we played without our setter and our coach. It was an extremely unfortunate situation because his plans overlapped. He had his father's 80th birthday on that day. So, you know, he was already spending until like 6 p.m. with us until like the quarterfinals. And then he finally had to go to the dinner. So we were like, oh no. Our last game, the final, we don't have our best team. We don't have our setter. And I was kind of worried at first, but I was especially worried because I had like super massive cramps within my quads for especially the round of 6 and the finals. Right before the game, like 20, 30 minutes before, I would have these massive cramps. And I would worry, like, God, this doesn't look good because, you know, my body isn't reacting well to all of this stress putting on through all of the jumping and stuff. And so we had all of these worries, but I had to really rally up the team and make sure we're on the same page to win the fight, which was ultimately the volleyball game. You know, within the finals, there were many times that we felt our grasp on the game was slipping past us because we won the first set and we lost the second set. So we, at that time, we had to come together and we kind of made like a vow to our team, to ourselves, to focus on only 2 things. Number 1, on the present moment. And number 2, giving glory to the Trinity. And focusing on those 2 things really helped us not make mistakes, but also don't feel the pressure about the finals. And I think these words were from the Holy Spirit. I 100% believe that I could not say something like this on my own. And to conclude everything, we won because we were able to give the most glory to God and we were able to focus on the Trinity the most. And it was really meaningful because I realized that as second generation, if the second generation really comes together, we can really achieve amazing things within Providence. Now, after finishing up my work and my caddying job, which was a really good phase, and it will really set up my future pretty well, I'm now in a new focus, and I'm trying to develop this healthy addiction that is one of my best moments within each day. And that is going to the gym and getting ripped. My winter arc is going to be amazing. Yeah, I'm a little bit exaggerating there, but I found a new love for the gym. And I don't know why this is the case, or if I have some scars that I need to heal by really like battling with myself. But I just had the most amazing 3 days and 4 days of going to the gym. And I think that in the past, I wasn't able to consistently go to the gym because number one, the gym I had in the past was really far away. Number two, I didn't have like a set schedule. So, so these 5 days, I'm going to hit these different parts. And I have the set amount of sets I have to do, which part of the body it's going to target, and how many reps. Those things I kind of outsourced, and I bought a program which through an app is very easy to track all of these things, which is to the beginner, this is like overwhelming, and to really implement a new habit and a new healthy addiction per se, like going to the gym, it's very important for you to make it very easy for you to do it, to do the action. But also for me, it's very enjoyable, kind of feeling that athletes love for destroying parts of your body just to know that your body's going to regenerate. And yeah, it's a feeling that I haven't had since my soccer days when I was like very young, and I would like the next day I'll be like, my body doesn't feel well. And that's kind of what I felt like during the day after the volleyball tournament. I was like, my body's aching like in 15 places I didn't know I could ache. And that's what I'm feeling right now every single day. And that really motivates me to be like, wow, I can actually feel pain. I'm actually human? And it really for me, it really makes me focus on other things rather than just focusing on like my anxieties and the situation that I have within my life. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope everyone has an amazing week with the Trinity. To everyone who goes until the end, let's walk this path together. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.
And that's a big thank you to Daniel Baker for another wonderful episode of Until the End. And of course, a big congrats. Everyone saw him on PROVI News too, as the team he played for, Kumsan, was able to win the championship for volleyball. All right, everyone, please leave a big congrats for Daniel for all the good, awesome job he's doing, and for volleyball. And for everyone out there, have an amazing and awesome weekend. And we'll see you guys again on Monday on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.